Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben, the award-winning gardening podcast as voted for by the Grow Your Own magazine and by my followers and by my listeners. I hope that you have all clicked that subscribe button. If you're new to the podcast channel, please do click the subscribe button and then you get notified of all the new podcasts that get launched. And if you're not following me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok, make sure you look for Gardening with Ben and follow me on all my social medias. So sit back, relax, grab a brew and let's enjoy today's gardening podcast with Ben. Hey everyone and welcome back to Gardening with Ben for a brand new episode today. Yesterday's episode, if you've not listened to it yet, was talking about all the jobs what we need to do in the garden this month in the allotment and garden, as there's still quite a few jobs that need doing. The list is getting shorter as we are getting towards the end of the year, but there are still jobs which need doing. So if you've not listened to that episode, make sure you go and have a listen to it and write down all them jobs that need doing and then tick them off as you go along and get them all done. So carrying on from yesterday's episode, we are doing what can you plant in September. So you might think it's getting towards the end of the year, you don't need to be planting anything at this time of year, but you're wrong. There's stuff we can carry on planting, stuff we can carry on growing. So usually we talk about all the things that can be grown in the vegetable garden, in the fruit garden and in the flower beds. So again, get a pen and paper, make a list of all these things and tick them off as you go along. Some things I'll be writing down as well to make sure that I plant them, as well as I want to continue growing through this autumn winter this year. So sit back, relax and enjoy today's episode. So first off, we're going to be looking at what you can plant in the vegetable garden, and there's still quite a bit that we can be growing through the winter period. So again, like I said, get a pen and paper and make a list of some of these things that you can write down, or you can just keep on listening over and over again at this episode and help boost the listening numbers. But yeah, let's start with today's episode then. So what vegetables can you plant in September? So now towards the end of September we're going to be getting ready for planting garlic. Usually I plant my garlic around October time, as the reason why you should plant it before the frost is because the frost helps it split. It creates the garlic cloves. So you need to be getting it in October time, end of September, beginning of October, so that it can get going, get growing, take root and get ready to grow through that winter period, ready for it being split by the frost weather. So have a look around, have a look for some garlic. I have grown some from shop bought garlic before and it grew successfully. So some people like to stick to the special seed sets what you get from garden centre, back to where I've got it from a supermarket, as it did perfectly fine. So that's what we are going to do this year. Next up is green manure. Now green manure isn't actually cow manure or sheep manure like that. In a sense, it's a thing that you grow, and what it is that you plant it in all your empty beds, and this will prevent weeds growing and it will also put nutrients back into the soil, and you will have better quality soil for when you're growing next year. So any empty beds, just sprinkle all this green manure all over them and dig it in and let it grow. Next up is pak choi. These can be sown in a polytunnel this month and harvested throughout the autumn, and you'll be picking baby leaves for all your salads and enjoying. Lettuce. You can grow winter varieties of lettuce straight in the ground this month. If you're worried about them, you can even put a cloche over them just to protect them, but they should be perfectly fine for growing in the winter periods. Onions. If you have any autumn onion sets, these can be planted in September. So if you wanted to grow onions throughout the winter, get some onion sets and get sowing them in the ground this month. Radish. This month is the last month that you can plant them straight in the ground. this will probably be the last crop of the year that you can grow radish. So if you like your radish, it's one of the fastest growing vegetables. Get some in the ground now and you can be picking radish in a few weeks' time. Salad leaves, not lettuce, salad leaves. Again, these can be sown straight in the ground this month for continuous crops all the way up to autumn. Spinach. If you want to become big and strong like Popeye, you can sow some in the polytunnel or the greenhouse. Planting it indoors will give you a harvest through the autumn and the winter. Spring cabbage. If you're wanting to grow some spring cabbage, these can be sown this month into small plant pots or in seed trays, but make sure they're kept warm in a greenhouse as the cold weather will kill them. Spring onions. If you've got some winter hardy varieties of spring onions, these can be sown straight in the ground now, hence the reason spring onions, they'll be ready for springtime. Turnips. These can be sown straight away in the ground this month for harvesting later on throughout the year. Next up is what to plant in the fruit garden. Now, there's not much to plant in the fruit garden in September. Usually we're planting in the fruit garden in the autumn months when the plants are dormant, literally. You plant like fruit bushes and fruit trees and stuff in the autumn months because the rain helps them take root and gets growing really. So the only thing that you will be planting in September in the fruit garden would be your strawberry plants. Now, obviously my strawberry plants have been sending out absolutely hundreds of runners. I must have planted about 200 runners. Yes, you heard it right, about 200 runners. But we are hoping for an absolute huge amount of strawberries this coming year. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal. And yes, I do love strawberries. And yes, I can't get enough of how delicious they are. So we're going to see if we can grow as many plants as possible. But we're going to see. We'll see how we get on. We'll see if we get lots and lots of delicious strawberries growing on our plot. So that is the only thing that you'll be planting this month. But you can start ordering all your rhubarb crowns because in October you'll be planting rhubarb crowns. So if you're wanting to plant some rhubarb, order your crown this month, ready for planting next month. So that is everything what you need to plant in the fruit garden. Now let's talk about what needs to be planted in September. Now there's lots of things that we can be planting in September. You might think that it's coming to the end of the year, but it's time to start sowing for next year for that beautiful flowers in your garden. So first off, we are going to look at planting aquilegia. These seeds can be sown in a greenhouse at this time of year. Calendula. These seeds can be sown this month in a greenhouse or polytunnel, ready for blooms next year. Now that is one of my favourite things to grow, calendula. I have had so many flowers on my plot from calendula this year. It's looked absolutely amazing. Cornflowers, again, another one that I've grown on the plot this year. And I grow it every year because it's so easy to grow. I tend to plant mine in around March time, but you can start sowing them now directly into the ground for blooms next year. So if you want an early flower, plant some cornflower and you can get some beautiful flowers from them. Crocuses. Yes, you can start to plant crocuses this month. They'll look amazing in tubs, borders, and add plenty of colour to your garden. And obviously crocuses flowers, bulbs are very small, so you'll need a lot of crocuses bulbs if you wanted to make a big show of them. Daffodils, you can plant these this month and make it look fantastic. I am one for growing lots of bulbs in the garden, especially in springtime, because it attracts those bees, especially when they're waking up from hibernation. It's the first bit of, I'm thinking of the word, nectar, that's the word. First bit of nectar that they can get when they wake up and refill and recharge. So plant some bulbs on your allotment this year. I want to see lots of people planting bulbs. Delphiniums. These can be sown outdoors now for amazing displays next summer. Geraniums. You can start sowing these now as well, ready for fantastic blooms next year. Hyacinth bulbs. Plant these in the garden this month for flowers that will add a beautiful scent to your garden and come back year on year. Now I need to get a load more hyacinth bulbs for next year, as I'm wanting to do a nice attraction of hyacinths on my plot. I've got a few on there, but I've not got as many as I want. I do want a lot more hyacinth bulbs on my plot. Hollyhocks, these can be sown this month in the greenhouse for blooms next year. Poached eggplant, now we used to have some of this at my old house, and it looks absolutely fantastic, and it spreads as well. It really does spread, so it's ideal for a rockery and to make it look very attractive. Poppies, you can sow annual poppies or Californian poppies outdoors for fantastic blooms all next year. And poppy seeds you can often get free. If you look around, you'll see poppies flowers everywhere, so go around, have a look around, see if you can find some poppy heads. Find them, dry them out and crack them all over the place, and the seeds will spread everywhere. Salvias, these can be sown in pots, seed trays this month and left in the greenhouse ready for next year. Violas, if you're wanting some early blooms in the garden, sow these in a greenhouse ready to plant in the garden in spring to add some extra colour to your garden. So that is all the flowers that can be sown this month. So there is quite a lot of flowers that can be sown in September, and you wouldn't think you'd be sowing a lot this time of year, but they need to get going and get growing so that they can become big plants and they flower earlier. Because if you do plant them like I do sometimes in March, they'll flower a lot later, so they won't flower for as long as other people's will do in the garden. So if you start them off early, you can get some fantastic blooms next year. So I'm going to be looking at some of those and seeing what flower seeds I'm going to get started on the allotment, because I'm so up for growing flowers at the moment on my plot. My plot is looking absolutely phenomenal this year, and can we get it to look even better next year? We will see. That is the challenge I'm setting to myself. So if you're new to this podcast, make sure you click that follow, make sure you click that subscribe, and you'll get notified every time a new podcast comes up. So until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep gardening, and keep listening to Gardening with Ben's podcasts. Thank you for listening to today's Gardening with Ben's podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do click that subscribe button, and feel free to share it as well on your Instagram stories. All you have to do if you're listening on Spotify is click the share button, and you can share it straight to your Instagram story for all your followers to listen to, and help build my listeners up as well and get more people listening to it. Feel free to check out all my social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok. Yes, I'm on TikTok. Go check it out. Check out my dancing. Gardening with Ben. And check out the link as well in the description of this podcast, where you can check out my gardening t-shirt shop, where I sell funny t-shirts with all different funny logos and designs on. And feel free to support me by purchasing one, and all the money obviously goes back into my allotment, where I can share more gardening tips with you all. So until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep gardening, and keep listening to Gardening with Ben's podcast.